for, for the first time 3 years ago, abuse, neglect, and exploitation appeared on the top 10 list of violations. With that, with that, popping as up with increased violations, you would expect additional immediate threats. And so about 2 years ago, we started the conversation with leadership at Health and Human Services Commission about why that is, what's going on with that, and what we can do as both as a trade association, but as a group of owners that are interested in best practices, not just regulations. Because of course, the regulation is the least common denominator. That's the least that you can do. And Torch is made up of people that are looking for the best care possible. And so we've been having that discussion about how do we, as an industry, what can we do as a group of people interested in the best care for our residents? What can we be doing better? And one of the first steps that we talked about is it's important to understand what that process looks like, what's going on, and how to navigate the process. And so that from that conversation with the Deputy Commissioner Michelle Dion Vahalik, who was planning to be here, had a crisis come up and was unable to make it. So she threw Renee and Mark under the bus. For those of you that have been to TorchCon, you'll probably recognize them. I see they're both still hiding with their camera off, um, which there we go. There's Renee. And did Mark go away? No, there's Mark as well. So wanted to start that conversation to help us as operators understand what that process looks like. When it can be a very frustrating process in general, but when we don't understand it, we don't understand what's going on the agency side of it. It can just increase that level of frustration. And so I'm really excited that Renee and Mark were able to take the time and were willing to come chat with us about what they see happening and what the process actually looks like from their side of the process. So with that, I'll turn it over to Renee.
Thank you, John. And good morning, everyone. I'm Renee Blanche Haley, and I am the Associate Commissioner over Survey and Compliance for Long-Term Care Regulation. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Yes? All right. Thank you for the
Yes.
thumbs up. And with me today, I have Mark Kendall. Mark Kendall is the Director of Survey Operations and Assisted Living Facilities and some other types also fall under Mark. And so we were asked to come and do a presentation on immediate threat. So a briefing on immediate threat. So we're going to cover that a little bit on plans of removal and the informal dispute resolution. Hannah's got our presentation, and so she has graciously said that she volunteered, I'll say, to go through the slide deck for us. So I appreciate that. So next slide. Okay, so first we're going to start off talking about immediate threats. Next slide. So anytime that our surveyors are in your facilities, they're on site, they are looking to see if the provider is in compliance with these licensing standards for assisted living facilities. They are on site gathering information, observations, interviews, record reviews, and they're determining if there is noncompliance there. And that noncompliance, if there's some there, can fall in one of four severity levels. And on this slide, you can see what the four severity levels are, with immediate threat being the most significant or most severe severity level. It starts from no actual harm to just minimal harm, all the way up to the immediate threat as a possible level of severity. Next slide. Okay, and so here is our scope and severity grid. This is something that you're probably already familiar with. This is the grid that is coming out of our TAC here. One of the things you'll also notice on this grid is that there's some dollar amounts that are on the grids based on the severity level. At the very bottom, that is the lowest severity level. And at the top of that level, level four, is immediate threat. Those numbers there equate to penalty amounts, admin pen amounts that can be assessed depending on the severity level and also the scope. You'll notice that there's scope there, isolated pattern, or widespread. Administrative penalties are determined by our enforcement area, which sits outside of long-term care regulation, but those numbers are there to just give you an idea of if you were to have an immediate threat, that those are the penalty amounts that could potentially be assessed. Next slide. So what is an immediate threat? And here, this is the definition of an immediate threat. This is when there is non-compliance that has occurred. The situation is such that serious harm, injury, impairment, or death has occurred or is likely to occur if there is not immediate intervention on the part of the provider. So these are serious issues of noncompliance that have been identified by the survey staff, and they call for immediate action by the provider. Next slide. Okay, so what are the components of an immediate threat? One is there has to be non-compliance. The surveyor, while they're there on site, they're going to be, again, like I mentioned, they're going to be looking at all of the information there. They're going to be observing, they'll be interviewing, they'll be reviewing records, and then they'll determine if there is some non-compliance there. They'll be looking at harm that either has occurred or, again, is likely to occur. We're talking about serious harm here, serious injury or impairment to the resident, or death, or, again, there is a likelihood that if there is not immediate intervention there, that it could result in those things: serious harm, serious impairment, or could result in the death of a resident if action is not taken immediately. And I see someone's asking for examples, so we'll talk about that more towards the end in just a minute. We'll talk a little bit more about some examples that could occur. And there is the need for immediate action to take place. So the provider needs to take immediate action in order to ensure that that serious harm, impairment, injury, death does not occur. So they need to take immediate action there. So I will give one example here. One, it could be related to fire safety. Perhaps there's a situation in the building where there's not the fire alarm system is not working appropriately, and if that is not fixed immediately in the result of a fire, it could result in serious harm, injury, impairment, or death to an individual, or someone who may, the provider is aware that the individual, the resident, has behaviors where they may tend to wander, and they have not put measures in place, and someone has left the building and cannot be located. That is an immediate jeopardy situation because of the non-compliance, and it's always tied to non-compliance, something that the provider did not put in place, whether that's additional monitoring, whether that's maintenance of the fire alarm system, those types of things, that there's non-compliance there, and it has resulted in serious harm, injury, impairment, or death, or it is likely to result in one of those things. That would be something that's an immediate threat level. I'm going to ask Mark Kendall. Mark, can you think of anything else or need to expound on any of the examples that I've already given?
I don't think so, Renee. I think those are good. Some of the ones you laid out are some pretty common ones we see these days, and so I think that kind of gives a good idea.
Okay, thank you. All right, next slide. So here is the IT template. Once a surveyor has determined that there is an immediate threat, and this means that they have done all of their observation and interview, they have communicated with their program manager, they have vetted that there is an immediate threat there at the facility. So they've talked to their regional staff. There's a call that occurs within survey operations, and it also includes staff from other areas outside of survey operations, so quality assurance, enforcement staff. They have presented the information that they believe is at an immediate threat level. And we've all come to that determination that yes, this is an immediate threat. The surveyor will present this IJ template to the facility, the manager that's there on staff. And this IJ template should briefly outline what the noncompliance is that rises to an IT level. It should explain either what the serious harm, injury, impairment was, or what can likely occur if the noncompliance is not corrected. And it'll say what types of immediate actions will need to take place. So you should be presented with this immediate threat template, and it should briefly explain to you what area of noncompliance there is and what the noncompliance is that has risen to an immediate threat level. And it's your opportunity to review that and then begin to develop a plan to remove the immediacy. Next slide. So again, IT determination, the surveyor is going to inform the facility that the IT has been identified and should be providing enough information to the provider so that you know what area the IT is in, what the noncompliance is, and then the provider must respond by giving us a plan of removal. It sounds like this afternoon you guys are going to be talking about plan of correction, but this is a plan of removal, and there is a difference there between the plan of removal and a plan of correction, and we'll talk about that a little bit also in this presentation. The surveyor cannot tell the facility how to correct the noncompliance, but if there are any questions from the provider, you're not understanding why it's an immediate threat, you can always talk to the surveyor. You can always reach out to their program manager if you need more clarification, because we certainly want you to be able to understand what the noncompliance is, because if you don't have a clear understanding of that, then you're not able to adequately develop a plan of removal. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to go into the plan of removal. Next slide. So what is a plan of removal? It is a plan that the facility immediately develops to remove that immediate threat. And it must detail all of the steps that the provider is going to take to ensure that any of the residents that are at risk are safe. And those elements of the plan of removal, they will be monitored by survey staff for implementation. So the plan of removal typically is not as detailed per se as the plan of correction, and there's some components of the plan of removal that may not be in a plan of correction. Next slide. Okay, so creating your POR, you want to cease any actions that may be causing the immediate threat. For example, if your immediate threat has to do with not enough staffing there, you have not enough staff to help to provide care to the residents that are in your facility, then you may want to bring in additional staff. If it's something related to your fire alarm system that we talked about earlier, you want to put something in place. Perhaps you need to put a fire watch in place while you work to get the fire alarm system fixed. Those are a couple of actions there that you can take to help to remove the immediate threat. It'll contain any documentation. You may want to do some training. Any other corrective steps? Again, training is one of those corrective steps. working to get something fixed, like your fire alarm system, putting other trainings in place for staff. Perhaps you have an individual, a resident that's living there in your facility, and there's some specific training that your staff needs so that they can better meet the needs of that resident and prevent them from being in the immediate threat situation. Those are the types of things that you would put into your POR, and a setting of timelines. You're going to tell us how quickly it is that you're going to be able to implement this plan that you have created. Next slide. So there is a template that providers can use to help you to be able to put your plan of removal together. It's not required that you use it, but it's a helpful tool, I believe, to help you to be able to determine, or to be able to put together that plan of removal that will be presented to the surveyor. It's recommended, a recommended form that you use, and Hannah has a copy of this presentation, and there's a link there in this particular slide, and there's some links in some other slides that if you click on those links, it'll take you directly to this form. So I would recommend that. Of course, no one wants to have an immediate threat in their building, but this is a form you may want to go ahead and download, be familiar with. And if you have any questions on how to fill out the form, or what types of information should be in those particular areas of the form, you can also reach out to the program manager or talk to the surveyor that happens to be on site. Next slide. Okay, so how do those plans of removal and the plan of correction or how do they differ? So the plans of removal, they detail how you're going to remove the immediate threat. They won't actually tell how you're going to completely correct the non-compliance, but what are you going to do now to remove the actual threat? There will be a timeline by which you need to submit the plan of removal. Again, these are immediate threat situations. They're serious situations. And so it is imperative that you quickly come to a determination of what it is that you need to do to ensure the health and safety of the residents that are in your facility. If by chance there are immediate threats in different areas, one in different levels of noncompliance, different violations, you will receive an immediate threat template for each one of those violations. And so you will submit a plan of removal for each violation that is at an immediate threat level. And your plan of removal must be comprehensive. It needs to clearly outline the steps that you are going to take. And those steps are the things that the surveyors will be monitoring for to ensure implementation. Your plan of correction is going to be more detailed. It's going to tell us how you're going to correct that non-compliance and ensure that it remains corrected and the facility remains in substantial compliance over a longer period of time. The plan of removal is due while the surveyors are in the facility. The plan of correction will come back on that 3724 that you would receive, and there's a portion of that document where you would put your plan of correction, and it's going to be due 10 days after you receive the 3724 document, the statement of violations that you get from HHSC. And there will be one plan of correction for each rule that is violated. Next slide. Okay, so some of this is what we've already kind of touched on. To resolve the immediate threat, you must implement the PRR immediately. Again, these are serious violations, and so we want to make sure that the provider is moving quickly to remove the immediacy. The surveyors will monitor for implementation. So if your plan of removal says that you're going to implement a fire watch, surveyors will be monitoring to ensure that you've done just that you've implemented a fire watch. If your plan of removal says that you're going to increase your staffing level, they'll be monitoring to see that that's being done. If you say you're going to train, they'll be looking for the training. They'll be either watching to see that the training has been completed, or they'll be interviewing staff, asking about the training. They'll be reviewing anything in writing also that you say that you're going to do. If you're going to update a policy, if you say you're going to do that as part of your immediate threat, the surveyor's responsibility is to, once they have accepted the plan of removal and they have said, yes, what you put in your plan is acceptable, and we can see that these are things that will remove the immediate threat um, from this particular situation, then they will be monitoring for those things. When it's time for the surveyor to exit, at the exit, you will get a preliminary findings form. That's 3701, that will indicate that there was an immediate threat and what area that that immediate threat was in. Next slide. So we just talked about the 3701, which is the preliminary findings forms. And so I want to stress that these are preliminary findings. They are not the final notice of the non-compliance. That would be your 3724. It is preliminary. And so there will be information in there on, this was an immediate threat. And there should be some brief information on there about what the immediate threat is, what area that was cited in and or will be cited in, and then it'll be provided to you at the exit conference. If you have any questions about what is on the 3701, that's a good opportunity for you to talk to your surveyor there. If there's still something that you didn't understand, that's your opportunity to talk to your surveyor. If there's information or evidence that you believe was not considered, that is an opportunity for you to present the information to the surveyor at the exit conference if you believe that there was something that was not considered or that was overlooked. The Form 3724 is the statement of violations. And so this is going to be the list of your deficiencies that will require a plan of correction. You will receive that document within 10 days after the exit. So we have 10 business days to get that document over to you. You'll get the document within the 10 days to review that document and to formulate your plan of correction. Many times providers are already developing a plan of correction before the surveyor even exits the facility. Next slide. Okay, so you've received your document in the mail or via email. You've gotten your 3724, and it has a list of all of the violations that may have been cited. And so now you'll have an opportunity, if you're not in agreement with those violations, for an informal dispute resolution. Next slide. Next slide, Hannah. Thank you. So the informal dispute resolution, when you receive your official written document, you'll get the 3724. There'll also be a letter there that will explain to you that, this is your formal letter of non-compliance. If there are any penalties that are recommended, there'll probably be documentation of that as well. There'll be a statement about an IDR, and you should also receive a form as part of the packet of information that you receive that you would complete if you want to file an IDR, if you would like to request an IDR, and there are timeframes around that being submitted as well. But that's what you should receive when you get your 3724. So that particular document, a statement in the letter that tells you that you have an opportunity for an informal dispute resolution. And there should also be a form in there as well that you would complete. Let us know which particular violations it is that you want to dispute, and you would send that in to the appropriate place as indicated on the form. Next slide. So if you do not agree with a violation that is cited, you can, of course, submit your informal dispute resolution. You can request that through the form that is submitted. That information goes to, we receive that information as well, survey operations, but it goes over to the IDR area that's a part of HHSC, but sits outside of long-term care regulation. You would submit that form to them within the required time frame. Failure to meet those specific time frames could result in your IDR being denied. If that were the case, you would receive notification from the IDR area and not from long-term care regulation. IDR would communicate with you if a time frame was not met. Next slide. Okay, so to request that IDR, again, you're going to submit the form here to the IDR department within the 10 calendar days. Again, if you are not submitting it timely, it could result in your IDR being denied and you not having an opportunity to move forward with the IDR process. MPRO is the third party that completes the IDR for assisted living facilities. They also complete it for nursing homes as well, and ICF. But for your program, MPRO is the area that's the Michigan Peer Review Organization. They complete the IDR. They review. They determine if perhaps the deficiency was cited in error and needs to be deleted or revised in any way. The 3724 is sent via email. I see that as a question. It is sent via email. There may be some rare instance now where a provider doesn't have an email address to send it to and may request that it be sent via regular mail, but it's sent via email. You're welcome. Next slide. Okay, so as part of the IDR process, there are some things that the provider cannot use the IDR process for. Unless the scope and severity is an immediate threat, and that's primarily what we're talking about now is the immediate threat. Unless the scope and severity is at an immediate threat level, the scope and severity cannot be disputed. If it is immediate threat, you can dispute the scope and severity. If there are any remedies that were recommended or being imposed from the enforcement area, those are things that you cannot dispute as part of the IDR process. If you have any concerns about the surveyor that was on the visit, that's also not something that you would dispute as part of an informal dispute resolution. If you have concerns about the surveyor, specifically, surveyor should be leaving a comment card. That's one way that you can submit any concerns or complaints about a surveyor behavior. If you didn't feel like the surveyor accepted information that you felt like was vital, that's one way that you can let us know that. You can reach out to the program manager if you need to. And there are times also where Mark and I directly receive concerns about a particular visit. It may be about a surveyor, or it may be about the visit in general. Mark and I also get some of those complaints that come to us, and we ensure that those are addressed, and we look at whatever the concerns are that's coming from the provider. But this would not be an opportunity for you to allege that there's any issue with the survey team or the specific surveyor that may have been on your survey. Also, if you're a provider that has facilities in multiple areas of the state, IDR is also not a place for you to bring up any inconsistencies that you may see across the state. That's also something that you would want to bring up to your regional program manager or regional director. And Mark and I will also always welcome any of that feedback if you see that there are inconsistencies across the regions. At one time, there was an inconsistencies mailbox that we had. I don't know if we still have it. I'll look at that. But we had one, and providers were saying, well, we see inconsistencies and we want to be able to share those. And most of the time, we never received any inconsistencies. We got very few little feedback at that particular mailbox. And a lot of times the feedback that we did receive didn't have anything to do with inconsistencies. But if you do have homes in different parts of the state and you feel like you see legitimate differences, inconsistencies across different teams, different parts of the state, please don't hesitate to reach out to long-term care regulation. We want to hear about those things so that we can ensure that it's corrected and that we are consistent across the state. And any alleged inaccuracies Also are things that would not go through the IDR process. Next slide. Okay, so the IDR process, it gives you that opportunity to informally dispute regular survey findings. And there's some links there. Again, Hannah has the presentation. And so some of these things are things that you can be able to just click on and it'll take you to a particular page for you to review. And again, the Michigan Peer Review Organization, they perform the IDR reviews and they make the recommendations of compliance, the determinations of whether there is compliance or there's non-compliance. Next slide. And this slide will take you to a link for the IDR request forms. When you receive your 3724 from the state agency, that information should be included along when you receive the 3724. The form should also be included there. And then any enforcement letter that comes out of the enforcement department that would recommend, have anything about remedies there. All of that stuff should be included together in the email when you receive the 3724. However, this particular slide does have a link that will take you directly to the IDR request form. Before we go to the next slide, I'm going to go to Mark Kendall and say, Mark, is there anything that you feel like I need to add as part of what I've already presented?
Only thing I would add is related to the IDR. If a facility decides to submit an IDR, which is great, we want you to do that if you feel like you need to do that. You still have to submit your POC within the required time frame. That does not slow down or stop the POC process. We get that question a lot, hey, I'm going to submit an IDR. I'm not going to submit my POC. You still have to submit your POC within the 10 days after you receive your 3724 as you're going through the process to submit your IDR. So Renee, I just want to mention that because that's a question we get quite often.
Can
And
I
that's
can I
an
add to that?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So if you have an immediate threat, you have to file the plan of removal and the plan of correction and the IDR. So none of those processes replace the other. You still have to do all three within the designated timelines.
Yeah, that's accurate because,
Yep.
Again, we're talking about an immediate threat situation, which is a serious situation, and that plan of removal will be the first thing that you will need to submit so that we can ensure health and safety for the residents that are there in the facility. So plan of removal first while surveyors are on site. You would, and then surveyors will monitor for implementation. Then you would receive their 3724 and that's when you would submit your plan of correction on the 3724 form. And then next would be your IDR. So if you're going to IDR, you'll be doing your plan of correction and filling out your form for the IDR around the same time.
Yeah,
Those
I would,
those are close.
yeah, sorry, Renee, but I would add too is that if you do the IDR and you've submitted your PO plan of correction and it's been accepted, if your IDR recommends deleting a violation or two or however that comes out, what we do is we would send you a revised 3724 with those violations deleted, and then you would submit a new plan of correction. Mine is the violations that have been removed. So, because that's kind of the concern of, well, why do we send this POC if we have the potential for any violations to be removed? And we do understand that, and we can get that corrected if you have any violations that are deleted as part of the IDR process.
Right. And I saw a question pop up about, as far as training is concerned, what metrics is HHSC looking for? And it's really going to depend on what the non-compliance is. And the provider is going to determine what you believe is going to, and I'm thinking you're talking about for the plan of removal, but if you put training as part of the plan of removal, but it's going to, your training is going to focus on what the non-compliance is. So we'll be reviewing that to see, does that training cover the non-compliance issues? If it has to do with supervision, let's say hypothetically it has something to do with supervision, then if that resident has a particular need and you're going to train staff around that need, then you would determine what is the training that your staff need to have. And we would be looking at, okay, here is the non-compliance. This is what we've relayed to the provider. This is the training that they're going to provide. Does the training cover the non-compliance issues? And that's how we will determine if the training is acceptable, if that's part of the plan of removal that we will accept. If the issue is on supervision and you say, well, we're going to train our staff, and we look at what the training is and the training has nothing to do with the non-compliance, then more than likely the surveyor or program manager is going to reach out to the provider and say, hey, this looks like it's a great training, but it doesn't touch on any of the issues that are cited as part of the non-compliance. You're welcome. I'm sorry, I may have overlooked some questions as I was talking. So, Hannah, and John, if there's a question that you see that neither Mark or I have answered, can you let me know what those are? I answered the ones that I could actually see pop up as I was talking. Okay, thank you, John. Okay, are there any other questions? Thank you. The next slide, this is how you can contact our policy mailbox. Here's our ALF provider portal. If you have any questions specifically related to policy rules, you can submit those questions to the policy mailbox. Our policy and rules area have staff that review that mailbox, and they will respond to you if you have any questions. If any of your questions also touch on surveyors, like the actual process, the survey process, they will reach out to Mark and I as they develop a response, and Mark and I usually review those responses to make sure that they're sufficient if your response also touches on the survey process. Again, any concerns about a specific surveyor is something that you need to submit directly to the program manager or through a comment card, and we ensure that those are addressed. Next slide. And thank you. That's all of our presentation. So, John, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much. I would like to point out that the very first meeting of this in this venue that we did, or this format that we did, Michelle was our guest speaker, and you guys actually topped her attendance. So, next time she's feeling like maybe she's the boss, you might just point out that, hey, more people want to hear what we have to say than, no, maybe you don't go there, but
I
for you
believe that's true.
guys.
Michelle is a dynamic speaker, and had she not had a last minute conflict, she absolutely would have been here. But thank you to Mark for pinch hitting and sitting in with me to answer any questions that might have come up. But we appreciate the invitation as always, John. You know how to reach Mark and I if you have any questions, concerns, if there anything that comes up after this presentation that you want to bring to our attention or that we need to respond to. Please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to open the floor for 10 seconds. No, 5 seconds. If you've got a burning question you want to ask verbally that you didn't get typed in, I'll give you 5 seconds to turn your mute off and shout before we move on.
I'll go ahead and ask one right quick.
Go.
Kind of a technical question, probably goes hand in hand with what you're doing later today, John. But in the past, I've had issues with maybe a formatting of a POC where I couldn't get the right type of text on top of that, or I was having to do some really tricky things on the back end to get the document in the right format type. So I didn't know if that was worth bringing up here. And I know you're probably going to go into some more of this later, John. But it is a specific issue that I have had some struggle with in the past. So I just want to mention that, or I don't know if there's been some refinement, or maybe I was missing something.
When you received the 3724, was there instruction on how to enter your plan of correction into that section? And you're saying that also was not helpful?
Yeah, it was actually like a document type issue. It wasn't like a PDF, or it wasn't a document that I could easily overlay. It was almost like a back end document format that was coming through to me.
So
That's happened a couple of times.
it comes in a Word document.
Hmm.
Does that easily translate to Google Pages? Does anybody know? I'm curious because not everybody, of course, has Word, and it is very, very persnickety. We hear that quite a bit.
Yeah,
And
I've
so,
certainly had that, and maybe it was a Word doc, but it wasn't like I don't have Word installed on my Mac, for example. So
yeah.
if I try and open that sucker, it's coming open in text edit, and it is not at all. There's no way to format that correctly. I will then try and get that into Google Documents as a document, and it's funky formatted. So it's like we need a flat printed version, like a PDF version, as an option maybe that comes through via email alongside an editable version. I don't know. I don't know, John. I don't want to overstep with what your plans are for later today, but that
Yeah.
is a technical issue that I've had some issue with being
Yeah.
on a Mac.
And I appreciate you bringing that up. Let me take
Mhm.
that back. I don't think there's anything that like I survey ops can do with that, but let me take it back and see if there's something that we can do as far as, perhaps it is a PDF sent in a PDF form that may be easier for you to enter your plan of correction. Let me take that back and talk to some other areas and see if there's something that we can do about that.
Thank you so much.
Am I okay
Sure.
speaking, John, on just on a user standpoint? I won't be attending this afternoon. I did the recorded version for this afternoon for plan of corrections, but
Yeah.
from a user end, I can say that it helps. Even if it does look like it's a back end thing to where HHSC wants to see who's commenting and when. So it's a sequential as people add things, add comments, and then if they resend it to you, HHSC resends it to you. It's an updated version, so it's an ongoing, almost like a Google Doc is what it looks like. But what I have found is that I cannot format it at all. Even if I'm a Word user, I'm not an Apple user, but if I select show notes, that is a key factor in me being able to add my notes in a proper formatted method. I won't be able to unless I go up in the top right hand corner and press show notes. And then I'm able to see their notes, add their notes, and it all is formatted correctly. So I just wanted to just put that out there. That's what I have found to navigate that document efficiently.
Well, I'll just point out that it is a little bit the persnickety nature of it is a little bit of job security for Torch in that one of the services we offer is assistance in writing plans of correction. So don't make it too easy, Renee.
Okay, I'll do my best.
All right. Well, last thing we have today is we've got a door prize. And as Hannah was trying to enter all of our record attendance into the little spinny wheel, it was so small you couldn't see it because there's so many of us. So I decided to go a different route. We're going to give. Let me just back up. So Lori Conway Insurance has sponsored today's door prize. I believe it's a Visa gift card or Amazon. Which way did we go?
Amazon.
Amazon gift card because it's easy to email that way. And so
Yes.
we're going to award it to the Torch member who completed the most recent survey. When was the last time you had a surveyor in your building? So today is May 28th. If you think that you had the most recent survey in your building, throw the date out. So we had somebody, does anybody have a surveyor more recent than February 14th? Yulia says she has. Throw when was the surveyor in your building, Yulia? May 1st. Kennedy was May 1st. Jackie May 1st.
We had it a week, 2 weeks ago. I need to check the exact date. Tony has the dates, but we had it just submitted day before yesterday, the plan.
Oh, and you met the deadline?
Yeah, we
So
met the deadline. Yeah.
So the
So
27th. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll say the 13th. Well, if you got the plan of correction, that would have been All right.
I'm just don't know what, but it was
We'll
like a
go
two
May
weeks.
2nd. Anybody more recent than May 2nd? Everybody's like, oh, I wish there was a surveyor in my building more recent. No, you don't. Really, that's just it's just a little bit of a soothing balm. Okay, you went through that, you survived. Here's a gift from on Amazon so you can get yourself some incense or something to calm yourself down from that. So, all right. Yuli, if you'll reach out to Lori, you guys can connect on that. I'll turn it back to Tanner to close us out.
All right, awesome.
Thank
I don't know if Hannah has anything else to touch on. You're good, Hannah. Oh,
Yes,
we do
just
have
the seminar today, and then our
yeah.
brand new North Houston chapter. Our first meeting will be on June the 9th. Any more questions about events, just let me know.
Okay. Uju has her hand raised. You have a question for us, Uju?
Yes, I have a question, please. So I had a surveyor in my building, April 28th,
Hmm.
and she said I was going to receive the 3742 or whatever that form is. I never received anything. Is it that I
It's
guess?
coming. It's coming, and just let it ride. They'll get around to it when they get around to it. They are
Okay,
required to get it to you within 10 days.
okay.
Obviously, they have not. Don't race into getting smacked or whatever it is that they're going to do.
Oh,
And
no.
by the way, that does not clear
I
you
have a
from the
question.
obligation to have it back in 10 days. So your deadline still applies.
Okay, okay. I was hoping it's not coming anymore. So,
Oh, they've got you on hold. Definitely haven't forgotten you. Trust me.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Was there
Okay.
somebody else shouting in on that?
I have a question real quick. Is there a typical timeline for acceptance of the plan of correction by the state?
You're you're supposed to hear back within 10 days of submission, but just as EG pointed out, you don't always. And uh, an acceptance does require them to check out to make sure that you're doing what you said you would do. 99% of the time, that's a desk review.
And that's 10 business days on all around.
Correct. It's 10 business days every way.
Yeah. Okay. Any last minute burning questions before we wrap it? Okay. Thank you all for joining us. That was a great session, and I think the session this afternoon will be wonderful as well. I am grateful for each one of you. We look forward to seeing you next month. Please share this with anyone that you think might benefit from this type of huddle. Hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you, Tanner.
Thank you, guys.